All right, let's just jump right into a really tough idea today. It's something that kind of pushes back on what most of us think is a basic truth. We're going to talk about compassion for cruelty and ask a pretty uncomfortable question. Is being compassionate always a good thing? This whole idea really kicks off with this powerful and, honestly, pretty counterintuitive quote from the Midrash. The warning here is intense. It's saying that if you consistently show kindness to people who are cruel, you actually risk becoming cruel yourself, or at least you enable cruelty towards the people who genuinely need and deserve your compassion. It's a real paradox, and we need to unpack it.
And I know what you're thinking, because I thought it too. This goes against everything we're taught, right? Be kind, turn the other cheek. So isn't kindness always the answer? That's the big conflict we're getting into. We're going to have to look a little deeper than the easy answers.
So, to really get to the bottom of this, we first have to tackle a huge myth about human nature itself. This idea that deep down, we're all just wired to be selfish.
You know, a lot of this comes from a complete misreading of Charles Darwin. We hear survival of the fittest, and our brains just jump to this image of a ruthless, every man for himself world. But that is not at all what Darwin meant when he talked about social creatures like us. The truth is, sympathy, our ability to care about each other, that's one of our biggest evolutionary advantages.
For Darwin, sympathy was the key. It's what lets us cooperate, build communities, and solve problems that are way too big for any one person. Those mirror neurons in our brain that let us feel what someone else is feeling, that's not a weakness. That's our superpower. It's what helps us move beyond just brutal head-to-head competition.
And you can see this on a really personal level, right? I mean, think about any long-lasting, healthy relationship. It isn't built on who's stronger or who's in charge. It's built on kindness. All those little acts of caring for each other, that's the glue. Being pro-social isn't just a nice idea, it's literally essential for our survival and happiness. But what happens when that social instinct gets weaponized? This is where we get the idea of punching down. You see it all the time. Someone with a huge platform, an influencer, a politician, uses all that power to attack someone who can't possibly fight back on the same scale. They can spread lies to millions, and their target has no way to even defend themselves. If you show compassion in that situation, by amplifying their message or making excuses for them, you're not being kind. You're actually helping the cruelty along. So if our natural tendency to be compassionate can be twisted like that, what happens when you decide to actually side with a cruel person? Well, it's not just a moral problem. It can be incredibly dangerous for you.
We've all heard this saying, right? It perfectly sums up the trap of aligning yourself with cruelty. You might think you're getting on the winning team, but what you're really doing is stepping into a game with no rules and zero loyalty.
I mean, think about it. If you're helping someone who operates without any integrity, why would you ever expect them to treat you with integrity? They might promise you the world, power, status, whatever. But as soon as you're no longer useful to them, that same cruelty you helped them dish out, it's going to be turned right back on you.
You know what this reminds me of? That incredible opening heist in The Dark Knight. The Joker's plan is literally designed for the thieves to take each other out, one by one, so there's a bigger cut for whoever is left. It is a perfect, brutal system of backstabbing. And that's the kind of company you keep when you side with cruelty. You just become another pawn in their game, totally disposable. Okay, so we've been talking about this on a big societal scale. Let's bring it way closer to home. Let's talk about our families, our friends, our communities, where these cycles of hurt can be so hard to break.
We hear this all the time, and it comes from a really empathetic place. It's an acknowledgement that people who cause pain have often been through a lot of pain themselves, right? Their actions are often rooted in their own trauma or abuse. But, and this is so important, an explanation is not an excuse. Understanding why someone is cruel is not the same thing as giving them a free pass to keep being cruel. We can acknowledge their past pain without sacrificing the safety and well-being of the people they're hurting right now. Empathy for their story can't become an excuse for their abuse. So this is a question we really have to ask ourselves. Why is it so much easier to call out a stranger's bad behavior than it is to confront it when it's coming from, say, a family member, or a respected boss, or a friend? Well, the reasons are complicated, and they're deeply human. We stay quiet out of loyalty to our tribe. We make excuses because we admire other things about them. Sometimes, we hope to get something from them, approval maybe. And like we just said, we often feel real sympathy for what they've been through in the past. But here's the bottom line. The only way to stop these toxic cycles, where one person's pain creates another's and on it goes, is to call it out. It just doesn't matter who they are, how much you like them, or what their backstory is. You have to name the abuse to break the chain.
Okay, so with all of that on the table, what's the takeaway? How are we supposed to move forward with a kind of compassion that's actually clear and effective?
Well, the game plan is actually pretty straightforward. It means when you see lies and slander, you call it out. It means you just refuse to defend or enable or make excuses for abusive behavior. It means when you see someone with power attacking someone without it, you don't stay silent. The goal here is to break the cycle, not to keep it going with misplaced kindness.
Because in the end, silence isn't neutral. It's not a safe choice. When you just stand by and let cruelty happen, you become part of it. You're helping to create a more toxic, a more miserable world for everybody. And that will eventually include you too.
So I want to leave you with this one last thought to really chew on. Take a look at your own world, your family, your job, your friends, and ask yourself, who are you giving your compassion to? The cruel or the compassionate? The answer to that question could change everything.